At this point, any fundamental change to the relationship between the American government and capital would just break the entire thing, which is going to happen anyway. So, it's really just a matter of what terms you go out on. In hindsight, do you think Obama should have done it anyway? Yeah. The problem is that, like, Obama was never the person strong enough to do it. But if Obama was a real leader, if Obama was like a real red-blooded, soul of iron kind of guy, if he had real stones, I mean real stones, he might have needed to be the guy, even if that was too late, even if it was too late at that point,
I am tired of a set of people on the very far left in the Democratic Party. Ideas that are literally insane, nutty, moronic, dangerous, bigoted, are not progressive. They're regressive, and they should not be in our party.
I'm not living in communist America.
So what is this clip? What is this clip together? I don't want to clip together. Just give me the damn thing. We heart Hamas. Very, very, very real, serious concerns. On Fox News. Fox News. What do we have? We got a Young Turks Fox News clips. Oh, this is from the Fox News Clips channel. I see. So what are they pulling from? They're pulling from like a CNN. It's all reheated bullshit, man. That's my job. I'm the one who reheats the bullshit. I just don't want to double reheat the bullshit, Oh, brother. Is he going to start crying? Remember when the Democratic Party line was no human is illegal, and now he's saying no deportations is regressive? Well, it's like Adam Smith from Washington 9, where Democrats will pretend to be progressive only up until the point that their progressivism might actually lead to an outcome, and then they abandon it. Look at how every Democrat back in Trump 1 was like, no human is illegal, deportations are evil, and then as soon as Biden got in, do not come. Biden tripled down on border security and even tried to pass a bipartisan far-right bill that would have empowered ICE and deportation authorities or immigration authorities. Just really sickening stuff. Yeah, don't believe in a damn thing. It's genuinely a lot more evil than Republicans, who lie all the time, obviously, but they're always pretty on the nose with their morals, right? Like, Republicans will go out there and they'll be like, we love rape, we hate life. And that's like, yeah, they do. They lie about the details, but they're pretty straightforward. The average Republican going out there, kill, 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 kill. Like, yeah, that's pretty much what they, yeah, it's, it's more corrosive, IMO. No, I agree. I think that, like, and by the way, I think that my point is perfectly demonstrated by the turnout back in the 2020 election. Democrats turned out like crazy back for Biden. In large part because the last Democratic president they had gotten was Obama, who had, like, in my opinion, an undeservedly good reputation. But over the past, especially the past couple of years since Biden came into power, but broadly since 2016, Democrat voters have lost a huge amount of faith in their party, both for being able to lose to Trump twice, but also for being so fucking openly disingenuous with it, I really, truly do not think that this level of disingenuousness is typical in democracies, like pre-neoliberalism. To put it another way, and this is just a guess that I have, I do not know if this is true. I would have to, like, really read up on the cards to get a feel for this. But my guess is that in the post-war world, in America, post-World War II, also pre-World War II, but let's just say post-World War II, for the most part, there was a pretty strong alignment between what politicians said they wanted to do and what they actually did. Now, I'm not saying they didn't lie. Yes, they lied. I'm not saying they didn't pivot, right? Like the extension of the Vietnam War. I'm not saying that stuff didn't happen. But broadly, if you supported a politician, you had a pretty good read on what they believed and what they supported. And my belief is that since Clinton in the Democratic Party, this relationship has been fucking annihilated. I think that Clinton, who again has an undeservedly good reputation, is if you look at what he actually did and what he's famous for and the consequences of his presidency, mostly just neoliberalized the American economic system from the Democratic Party, right? Basically said, we're not going to challenge Republicans on this. We are okay with the whole country being signed away to capital. Like, we are not going to fundamentally challenge Reagan's restructuring, And I think that, like, as a consequence of that, the Democratic Party has been in a bit of a political reputational crisis, where Republicans who, have taken the reactionary half of the political electorate get to be relatively open in their beliefs. Like, the Trump administration lied about doing deportations, but they lied in the opposite direction. Trump campaigned on deporting 20 million people. The lie was that he never could do that in the first place. So it's not that he didn't want to go for deportations, it's that he's incapable of effectively doing the evil he's promised. Whereas for Democrats, it's the opposite. Democrats will virtue signal, but then when it comes time to bat, they don't seem to care at all, you know? How many people do you know personally? And I mean this, I'm not asking rhetorically. How many people do you know personally who have carried with them a deep sense of betrayal over the Democratic Party abandoning pro-immigrant rhetoric between 2016 and now? How during Trump 1, there was this massive woke one surge, you know, kneeling with the Kenta cloth, no human being is illegal in this house, et cetera, et cetera. And then from 2020 onward, just a total abandonment on this, culminating in Biden attempting to pass a far-right immigration bill that Republicans would support. And now today, under Trump 2, Democrats seem to have completely given up on the issue. You know, like Democrats can't even agree on abolishing ICE. Though you have people like Adam Smith who will say abolish ICE, but then backpedal on it when it seems possible to actually achieve. Having no existential threat like the Soviets broke their ability to posture. I just think that before Reagan, the capital class in this country, the business class, whatever you prefer to say, right, was reasonably constrained by the government. The government was like, okay, listen up, business class, all right? You are subservient to us. You get away with a lot, and we give you a lot of leeway. We've done coups for you. We've overturned democratically elected socialists in Latin America for you. We do a lot for you. But at the end of the day, business class, your ability to do what you want is subservient to the continued national security of the United States. Now, again, I'm not saying there haven't been exceptions to that, but I think by and large that was the rule. For the most part, when the business class got what they wanted, it was either through like corruption, nepotism, knowing a guy, or like, you know, they finagled and negotiated with the government to secure a mutual settlement. I'm not saying there wasn't corruption. Again, I just don't want to be misrepresented. It's always been a problem. But since Reagan, I think the rhetoric has basically just been like, nah, like you can just do whatever the fuck you want. 2008, man, Jesus Christ, what a perfect encapsulation of the problem. Literally a handful of businessmen can just collapse the global economy and nothing happens to them. Everyone in the world wanted those Bernie, Madoff, all the people responsible for the 2008 financial crash. Everyone on Earth, literally billions of human beings, wanted these people to fucking face legal consequences for their actions. Everybody wanted it, and they were all let go. I think that, and maybe this is really naive of me. You can tell me if this is me being naive, but in my opinion, if 2008 had happened back in like 1962, I think all of those guys would have been probably executed. I mean that because it's not to say back in 1962 the government wasn't pro-business. It was. It was that was such an unbelievable critical threat to the security of America and its allies. Such a like unbelievably treasonous thing to do. I think they basically would have been treated like, they probably would have called them secret communists. They would have done some Red Scare shit on them. They would have been like, these are Soviet agents. They've been influenced by the Politburo to destroy the capitalist economy. They're trying to take down capitalism by abusing it, you know? It's a global threat. I don't think so, because they would have done so during the Great Depression. The Great Depression was not the product of such open negligence and irresponsibility as 2008. The Great Depression was a little bit more complicated, a little bit more like incentives based, I think. But also, this is the reason why I'm saying the post-war world. America before and after World War II, very different entities. World War II was when we became the global economic hegemon. It's when we became the face of global capitalism. So I think that our behavior afterwards is like, it was a very, very, very different world between those two, like between that point, you know? Yeah, the Great Depression was more complicated. What about Nixon? What about Nixon? Wouldn't not bailing them out have led to a depression worse than the Great Depression? Back in 2008, I'm not saying we shouldn't have bailed them out. We should have nationalized them. Like this is to me like a very easy read in hindsight. All the people responsible for the illegal fraud they were doing fraud, it was illegal, those people all should have rotted in jail for the rest of their lives. 1,000-year sentences. And we should have nationalized their businesses. Easy, like very easy. In my opinion, this is like a very, very straightforward solution. Like they literally destroyed the global economy. You realize that the people responsible for the 2008 financial crash probably killed more people globally than Adolf Hitler did. That's not a joke. If you take a look at excess mortality and total damage done following 2008, we're talking about millions and millions of people here, okay? We're talking about a global economic crash. Sure, in America, that might mean a lot of people lose their houses, but the crash was global. What about the developing world? We're talking about famines. We're talking about unbelievable amounts of harm done globally. Globally, it's the global economy. Unimaginable harm. Many economies only recently started to pick themselves back up. It was an economic crash so bad, even though it was caused by just a few people, it was so bad that even wealthy countries, like in Europe, France, Germany, England, took years and years and years to recover after, though a lot of that was because of austerity, though in fairness, the austerity politics they practiced were following exactly the same economic logic that we employed when we allowed the 2008 financial crash to happen. So in fairness, like they basically just did what we did, you know. How bad was the COVID crash versus 2008? Man, a lot of you really are young, huh? The COVID crash wasn't really a crash. The economy got put on pause. It led to a lot of harm, but the recovery from it was very well managed, depending on the country that you're in. 2008 was a genuine, like apocalyptic, it was catastrophic. Do you know how high unemployment was? Hold on, one sec. We talk now. We're like, oh, unemployment is high. It's at 4.3% or something. Unemployment after 2008. The unemployment rate more than doubled from 4.7% to 10% in October 2009, and that's a favorable unemployment measure. We're talking about tens of millions of people who couldn't find a job, just lives, houses foreclosed on, lives just ruined and never recovered. I know a lot. The US lost roughly 8.4 million jobs during the recession. This just ended a bunch of people's lives, basically. We're talking about like a like world war level of damage globally. And America got off relatively easy. There were countries that were hurt far, far worse than America. Britain, for one, just unbelievably apocalyptic effects on the job market. The UK hasn't been the same since 2008. Yeah. Could you elaborate as to how it caused millions of deaths? Yeah, economic crashes carry consequences. In the West, it means stuff like unemployment, foreclosed homes, and so on. But in developing countries, it means drying up the capital markets that sustain the limited industry and imports they have. There are, like, if you have to, this is sort of like an externalities thing that neoliberal economists don't like to talk about because it makes their tummy hurt. But if you look at 2008 purely in like a technocratic, America-centric way, no, not like millions and millions of deaths. Not in America. But if you look at it as a consequence of the global economic harm, like economic harm isn't just an abstract thing that determines how many Funko Pops you get to fill your walls with, you know? It's like a real thing. Economic harm can cause famine. I mean, it can just destroy growth. It can cause unbelievable. If you take a look at like a long-term excess mortality, it's great. I have seen easily millions attributed to the 2008 financial crisis. I mean, it's a global economic crash, right? The crash caused austerity, which killed lots of people. This is just in Great Britain, too. Over 330,000 excess deaths just between 2012 and 2019. And this is austerity. The effects of austerity on Great Britain heavily intertwined with the 2008 financial crisis. Obviously, 2008 didn't create austerity in Great Britain, but there's a strong relationship between these. So if you can imagine what economic harm does, right? Like what the long-term consequences of economic harm are, not just in developed countries like Great Britain, but the world over. If austerity on its own, just austerity, can cause this much excess mortality over a 7-year period, just imagine the whole world, the whole planet over a longer period of time. I mean, how many people are there in Great Britain? What, 40, 50, 60 million people, thereabouts? I mean, just doing the basic math on this, we're talking about World War levels of death. Obama admitted in his book he could have nationalized the banks after the crisis, but chose not to because of the de-investment from America's financial system would be devastating. Well, that's the hostage crisis, right? By this point, neoliberal capitalism had already completely infested American politics. Back in the 1940s, we would have had the ability to do this because back in the 1940s, the government was in charge. 40s, 50s, 60s, if the government wanted to pull off a big move like that, they could have. But now we're slaves of capital. Even governments as powerful as America bend the knee to global capital. Oh, we can't punish the people who collapse the global economy. We can't nationalize these banks that under private management have ruined the world. Why? Because that'll make other bankers upset. And if they're upset, they'll stop investing. Okay, so just don't have their investment. We're the most powerful economy in the world. No, you don't understand. It would actually fuck us over. And he's right. It would have. By 2008, it might have been too late to change the tides on this. The political capital that capital had at that point might have already been too much. How different would the world be if Obama had nationalized the U.S. banks? I think that Obama nationalizing the U.S. banks would have been a timeline shift so significant it would easily outpace Gore winning over Bush in 2000. I think that the long-term political ramifications of the United States government putting their foot down and saying, like, no, you can actually fail so badly that you lose the ability to conduct private business. Like there is a limit and you have crossed it. I think we'd be living in a different world. I genuinely, I think like it's almost unfathomable. I do not know. It could have led to global war for all I know. Like the long-term effects, the degree of rent-seeking capital, using countries as like vassals for their interest. I genuinely have no idea. I have no idea. So the problem, I guess, from my perspective, is that this was a challenge we would have to overcome eventually, and it's only gotten worse since then. Like back in Clinton's day, from 1992 to 2000, Clinton had the political capital. He might have been able to right the ship after Reagan. After Reagan and Bush Sr., Clinton might have been able to do it. It would have been unbelievably difficult, but he might have been able to do it. But by Obama, maybe. And by now, no. No. Global capital has everything. They own the moon and the sun and the stars. They own the spin of the earth. They own everything. No. At this point, any fundamental change to the relationship between the American government and capital would just break the entire thing, which is going to happen anyway. So, it's really just a matter of what terms you go out on. In hindsight, do you think Obama should have done it anyway? Yeah. The problem is that, like, Obama was never the person strong enough to do it. But if Obama was a real leader, if Obama was like a real, red-blooded, soul of iron kind of guy, if he had real stones, he might have needed to be the guy. Even if that was too late. Even if it was too late at that point, Who knows? I don't know. We're doing, like, alt history timeline stuff. I don't really know. If he nationalized the U.S. banks, it would have been bigger than the New Deal for sure. In its political ramifications, yeah, probably. Fun stuff, huh? What? How do we get here? Van Jones? That was so long ago. How on earth did we? There must have been some link in between Van Jones and us talking about the 2008 financial crisis. It was like a chat comment or something. Somebody in chat must have diverted my attention away. Not to suggest that's difficult to do. You just kind of went red and did the Omni segment thing. Okay, gotcha. Hey, it was a good bit. It is crazy to me that so many people in my community, I'm not blaming you, you're young, but a lot of people in my community, 2008 was 18 years ago. A lot of you don't even remember. It changed everything. 2008 was that critical point where American optimism died. Before 2008, even through the Iraq and Afghanistan war, up until that point, from the end of the Cold War to 2008, people in America had a largely upward view of American economy and society. When people thought about the future, they thought things were going up. 2008 was a stark reminder that no matter how good things might seem, no matter how calm things have been for any length of time, at any point, capital can destroy everything and face no consequences for it. And they did. I was 1 year old in 2008. That's no excuse. You should have known what was going on. Who did you vote for? I think people that were past it because the markets recovered, but a lot of the consequences are still persistent. The markets have barely even recovered. We're still living in the hole created by it. Hold on. The United States GDP is not a good way of determining its overall, economic well-being, because we're basically a gigantic capital pit. But the United Kingdom is a good example to really understand how bad this got. 18 years of growth wiped out in 2 months. Oh, sorry. No, wait. No, that's referring to the COVID crash. This right here is 2008. If we look at UK GDP per capita, let me find this. If only I was good at finding charts. Here we go. These are the kinds of charts that I'm referring to. Ones that refer to like real wages and not the GDP. But if you could get a feeling for what... This is one of the reasons why I say the UK is a dead country. Because of austerity, it wasn't able to pick itself back up afterwards. For much of the world, like everything after 2008 froze. And it hasn't recovered. It just hasn't recovered since. To be fair, this was a choice their leaders made. True, but keep in mind, they basically just made parallel choices to us. Austerity in the United Kingdom was just their version of total political deference to the will of capital. Liquidating and selling off government assets, just allowing more and more to be diverted into the financial center. It was just their version of it. America's version of financialization is different because we are the money pit. America is the center of the world economically. It's not even close. No one else even comes close. So of course, our version of financialization is a lot more like we're the center of the vortex, but the rest of the world followed suit in their own way. Same chart, but for Canada. Canada did relatively well after 2008. You can still see they stalled out quite a while. Look, man, look at how stark it is, too. There's like a genuine upward curve, a very straightforward one. And then after the financial crisis, you stall out for like 4 years before you start to get that upward growth again. Carney W, sadly. No, I mean, he's good. He's good at doing financial business. If 2008 was this bad, how bad will the AI bubble be? It's complicated. The AI bubble is more like the dot-com bubble. The financial crash was different. The mechanisms here are different. The financial crash wasn't really a bubble, right? The subprime mortgage loan crisis had more to do with like a massive collective loss of faith in the certification of like debt holding, right? Of like its legitimacy and the safety of holding that debt and trading on that debt. A bubble is different. The one thing we have going for us is that the AI economy is very sheltered, right? Like debt and banking affects literally everyone. 2008 affected everyone everywhere, but the AI bubble, it hasn't touched on every industry. There's loads and loads of stuff in the real world that has nothing to do with the AI bubble. Like, I don't know, agriculture, I guess we would say, just like not really affected, you know? Whereas the bond ratings affects everyone. But it's also just so much money. It's just so much money. They were turning mortgages into AAA bonds somehow. They were packaging mortgages offered to people who, like, both parents were on welfare and packaging those into AAA bonds. They were giving houses to anyone and everyone who could sign a fucking paper, you know? Here, yeah, you know, everyone mortgage. Can you pay it back? No? Who cares? Package it all together into AAA. You know how it went. Didn't the housing bubble burst because of 2008? Well, it was kind of like the opposite of the housing bubble, right? The problem is that housing was too available back in 2008. It was too easy to get a mortgage. So it was kind of like the other, but it was the mortgage bubble, not the housing bubble. It was just too easy to get a mortgage. Or if it wasn't too easy, then banks were being a lot too nonchalant about how those mortgages were being treated. You know, they were acting like no one was ever going to default on that shit. It was because of these. Yeah, the no income, no asset mortgages, the ninja, no income, no job, no asset, is a more extreme form of NINA where loans can be issued to an individual with no income at all. The applicant only needs to show a credit rating, which is presumed to reflect willingness and the ability to pay. Very low quality subprime loans, but they were getting packaged together with AAA. You know, they were trading on it like that shit was solid as gold. Insane and illegal. It was fraud, but it doesn't matter. No one faced any consequences. But they were literally building and mortgaging extra houses specifically to create the credit default swap derivatives. Yeah, it was, and again, I'm sorry to keep coming back to it. This is also omni-segment stuff. We created a set of financial incentives propped up by fraud, mind you, that meant the debt incurred by selling a mortgage or offering one, I guess, offering a mortgage was more valuable than the actual asset that was built. Now we're in the opposite position. Right now, housing is scarce. So the houses themselves, the asset, are what's massively overinflated. But at the time, it wasn't the asset. Houses were relatively cheap. It was the the speculation on the value of the debt the mortgage represented. So it's, again, like, this is all just so everyone understands, this is all complete fucking bullshit, and the economy shouldn't work this way. We created these inane arbitrary rule systems so that money men could make more money. None of this has anything to do with like efficiency. None of this optimizes economic outcomes. The fact that this is all allowed to happen, the fact that the incentives line up this way, has nothing to do with like positive economic outcomes. This doesn't make any resources more available. It doesn't mean a more efficient allocation of wealth or whatever. It's literally just stupid bullshit money games.